Hi Pisces, welcome to your mid-May reading. It's all about the aftercare and this eclipse and what it has left you with. Now the work begins. So for you, this lunar eclipse is a conflict of ideals. There are people who no longer gel with your more philosophical view on life. And you may even find that more work starts to come towards you that is in alignment with what you believe and what is fulfilling. So anything that is not fulfilling, it's getting treated pretty harsh. There is this almost cutthroat sense that Pisces has right now, that things have to be for you and in your favor, or they're adding to a pain that you're no longer willing to contribute to. And that is, you're kind of applying this retroactively. You're looking at your life in long form and saying, okay, whatever I've been carrying around, whatever self-image, whatever trauma, whatever pain, I acknowledge it. I acknowledge the best parts of what it did for me. And in that, I am able to let it go without having some residual sadness or lack in my life from where that pain has been so real and so much a presence, right? I'm choosing to look past things that I necessarily don't have to look past, that everyone would understand. If I decided to dwell on and to let it debilitate me, it would be okay. But I've chosen to move past that because I have a larger vision for myself, and not larger vision for Pisces from this eclipse moving forward for the rest of the year. Really is just the pursuit of this fulfilling work that has a great financial component to it. So for the first time, perhaps in your career, you are feeling like the passion that you bring, the insight, the magic that you bring is reflected in the monetary payment. So there is this great focus on being daring in your work, being daring in your writing, being daring in your creativity, being daring in your way of explaining things. You're no longer here to play it small. And for those of you who are Pisces rising, think about the fact that right now in your second house, which would be Aries, you have Venus, you have Jupiter, and soon you have Mars in like 10 days. So what you're looking at is this communing of planets in a sector of your life that didn't need a lot of help anyway. You're already building on something that is vast. You're already building on something that is in many ways a foregone conclusion. People know you're intelligent. People know you're bright. They know you're insightful. They know you have this almost eerie sense of what comes next. People have almost normalized how psychic you can be. And like anything, no matter how magical, if it becomes normal, if it becomes routine, people have a tendency to put it in a different part of their mind. It doesn't mean that they're taking you for granted or they don't see how special you are. It just becomes something commonplace. And anything commonplace, just because of the way our brain works, gets put on a back burner because it's something that's given, it's a given. And so unfortunately, for those of us who haven't been nurtured and nourished the right way as children, when something gets put on the back burner, we actually do lose value for it. Unlike people who aren't saddled with a bunch of trauma as children, they are able to keep something perhaps not in the forefront of their mind and yet still have a lot of respect for it and have a lot of care for it. So you may find that some people respond to the changes you're making in a really positive way, and then there are others who find that you are being not just irresponsible but reckless, impetuous. And it's difficult to defend yourself against that when a big part of your personality is just following your intuition. That can seem like a real judgment for someone to call you impetuous and reductive, right? Because you're going off of what your gut is telling you. And just because you can't necessarily it doesn't make it any less valid, and it doesn't make it any less real. Now, when it comes to spending money, be careful that you're not pushed to spend out of pressure, especially if there is a Cancer or a Cancer rising in your life that seems to dictate what you do. If you feel like they're pressuring you into spending money that you don't have, honestly, just say so. Don't let yourself be bullied into something because, you know, your pride wants you to seem like you have more than you do. The thing is, your pride is a little bit ahead of the time, because this Empress energy definitely, inshallah, is coming in for you, and you start to see it at the end of May. As soon as we hit Gemini season, the retrograde is actually great for you. But until then, until things start chugging in your favor, there is this week or so that's very precarious. Another reason it's very important that you get your reading now. This next week, you may find that you have to spend. Like the social pressure is too extreme, and you don't have a choice, but you do have a choice. And you should not spend. And if you need something to, fall back on, just maybe it's time to do a little reminding, maybe a little journaling, maybe a little looking through past projects or past writing or past creative endeavors, so you can recenter. You need to recalibrate yourself to who you are, and you're not the type to be pressured by your peers. So for that even to be a consideration this month seems to me like an indication that something else is off, something that you are forgetting about you as this unique individual. And that's alarming. We don't want to do that. Now, the other cool thing about Mercury retrograde for you, we're going to get more into the astrology when we look at the cards, but the other cool thing about Mercury retrograde is that for you, it leaves you open to a bunch of new possibilities, because you're pulled away from certain superfluous relationships. You kind of want to make it work with something long distance. You kind of want to make it work with something that isn't going to really, and you may have been pouring a lot of energy into it, and it's like, this isn't really going to go anywhere, but at least it gives you something to do. Yeah, it's time to leave all that sort of contrive, trying to make it work. There's no real chemistry there, or there's one-sided chemistry. It's time to leave that all behind, and Mercury retrograde does a great job of showing you exactly how and why you should do that. Sometimes that can be a little bit painful, when we see the truth about people, even if we don't really know them. It's still jarring to find out that someone is so different from how they present. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind that it's very, very easy to be disappointed in how others portray themselves, and how different, for example, their self-image is from the way that they perceive themselves to be. And that is triggering to you, specifically you, because that's a big part of what you deal with at the end of the month. As soon as the sun goes into Gemini, you have this need to reevaluate your self-image. You may find yourself getting irritated and kind of impatient with your looks, and impatient with treatments working, and impatient with age and aging, and you're just you're bored and you're restless, and you shouldn't take it out on yourself. But if you want to change your hair color or do anything like that, these are all things that as soon as the retrograde's over, you're gonna be like, well, why did I do that? But if you want to, go ahead and do it. It's just that it's not going to give you the satisfaction that you think it will. So the actual satisfaction that you're looking for is fundamental change, and that fundamental change with the self-image does not come from the external and permeate into the internal. It works the other way around. So if you are serious, which obviously you are, the astrology points to you being very serious, but also this, the Leo and the Empress really hurt me hard, because it's so encompassing of what you're dealing with right now. If you need a self-image update, if you want to look different, if you want to be perceived differently, if you want to, as the crappy childhood fairy calls, turn your cab light on brighter, then one of the things that I would suggest you do here is work from the inside out. What are the things that you love and adore about yourself, but you're kind of not allowed to? What are the things that you have to constantly pretend to be changing, but you don't really want to change? What are What are the different ways in which you're unique, and you're basically hiding it? You know, a lot of this comes down to authenticity, and that authenticity attracting more and more great experiences. Alhamdulillah, bless you. Are you all done? Yeah. Okay. That authenticity is also what ultimately leads you to this very difficult question of, you know, leaving one thing to start another because it's more fulfilling. Even if it's the best thing for you, even if it's a rung up on the ladder, it's still really difficult because you have emotional ties to the people you work with, or emotional ties to the theory of what you do for a living even. So if you're undergoing some major overhaul in that work emotion shift, then I think the most important thing for you to do now that the eclipse has happened, this aftercare that you need to do, has everything to do with examining this self-image and, you know, being as honest as you can with what it is that you want moving forward, not what you want and how you can make it fit into the boxes presented to you, but really the other way around, switching it completely. You know, you make the wants and you put the barriers around it and you make the boxes whatever size you want. Yes, it seems a bit esoteric. Yes, it seems a bit vague, but anyone who's done the hard work of trying to change from the outside in knows that it's virtually impossible. But anyone who's made even the smallest change internally and then seen how that change cascades in their external life can tell you and attest to the fact that it is really the only way to change things that we are unhappy with. So this eclipse ends up being another stern lesson in you recognizing and owning your magic and owning your powers. You know, to me, it seems like every month you're being more and more refined, and the planets seem harder and harder on you because you do have quite a lot of ability to make things as you see fit. And as long as your insecurities, as long as any sort of trauma you're carrying, as long as you're allowing others to traumatize you presently, is manifesting in your externality, it's probably not good for anyone, right? Not good for you, obviously, but not good for anyone around you. So I feel like the universe has a vested interest in seeing you get a handle on this power and use it, you know, in a healthy way. And you seem to be coming along beautifully in that arena. It's just that pride can be this hidden issue for water signs, not so much for Scorpios. We know they're very proud and we know how it really fucks up their lives. But I think all water signs are excessively proud. And for you, it really does show up in the finances. And so if you're really worried or ashamed or feeling bad because your finances aren't what they used to be or aren't what you wish they were, just know that in a couple of weeks, inshallah, God willing, everything will change. Everything is on its way to changing already. And your ego's already starting to get a glimmer of this, and so are your haters. So use the hateful comments and use your own ego puffing up a little as an indication of things going in the right direction. Not the most obvious advice, but it works. Love you. Hi Pisces, welcome to the second part of your reading. So now I have a better look at your astrology. I just couldn't see my notes very well last night and I was a little bit tired. So one of the things that we should talk about is your connections to others and the ones that bring you security, but we'll do that in a minute. Let's start up there with the Magician card. So when we're looking at the traditional meaning of that card, it has to do with knowing something that will make the whole thing work, knowing perhaps a secret, a skill, something that sets you apart. But the Magician also has this, you know, impetus to it, which is if you know the thing, and you know that you know how to do it and other people don't, why aren't you doing it? Okay, so whether you started to do it and other people are upset with you, or you're beating yourself up for not quite being the magician yet, either way, you're leading up to a time where the change can't be hidden anymore, the progress can't be hidden. You're almost a little bit apologetic to the people around you for the level of success that you are not reaching quite just yet, but the potential that you know is there. You can feel it, whether it's just subconscious right now or conscious, you can sense it. Now, that Nine of Swords there has to do with these old wounds being opened up, which was a big theme, not of the eclipse itself, but of now this time after the eclipse. So for the next 15 to 20 days, you'll see yourself, especially today, you'll see yourself starting to get into arguments that kind of are neither here nor there. They begin nowhere and end nowhere, and are incredibly draining. Now, if these arguments are in any way to do with, have anything to do with money, then you're gonna have to take a moment and imagine what your career, what your life, what your quality of life, what your general overall mood would be like if this person or this thing with whom you are having this money disagreement was not there. And if you can genuinely, authentically, honestly conclude that you would be happier, more stable, more calm, and have more money if this person wasn't around, it's highly likely that at this stage you will leave them. There are a lot of things that you are willing to look past, but when it comes right down to it, this sort of chosen poverty that some people wish to indulge in, it's just not your bag. You don't understand it. You're too driven for that. So if that becomes obvious to you right now in an established partnership, I'm sorry to say it, but I don't think you'll be able to unsee that. And when you start imagining this life without them, I don't think you're going to be able to unsee that either. Okay, so be smart. Be careful with distance in general. With romance, in general, especially if it's long distance or even emotionally long distance. You know how some people, they don't like really open up right away, and you don't really know a lot about them, and they don't really want to like video chat and stuff like that. People who kind of keep themselves at arm's length, or they actually are far away. Both those scenarios are really seductive to you right now. You kind of want to run towards something that's somewhere else from where you are. But one, it's a coping mechanism, so you don't have to stay and deal with what's going on because of this eclipse. And two, there's a lot of deceit and risky decisions, reckless behavior, unplanned pregnancies, unanticipated heartbreak, unanticipated crushes, meaning that you're so emotionally vulnerable at this time and so fertile in many, many, many ways that you can easily create more life, or you can create a bond with someone that takes a lot of life energy from you when you realize that they're not who you think they are, and the only reason you think they are who they are is because you don't really know them. So this is very much applying to people that you are meeting right now, right here. Okay? So be smart. And this ties into the social pressure as well. So that Empress energy is, of course, the energy that we would like to see you embody all of the time. But it also represents someone in your life that may be kind of forcing you to have to fancy it up more than you naturally would. And what does that mean? Is that something you do because it's culturally expected? Is that something you do because it's always been expected of you? And once you start going down that road and start really thinking about that, you're going to run into some pretty hard questions like, what else has been expected of you always? What other parts of your personality that you think are very much specific to you and are a byproduct of who you are? How many of those things are just things that you were expected to do and expected to be? Okay? That's another reason it's really important to be careful with romance right now, because that's a question that you really need to sort out before you date someone. Because whatever we were unconsciously expected to be, we unconsciously kind of expect our partners to be as well. Okay, so next month, there's going to be a lot of really big opportunities coming in, and they all involve a certain amount of risk, but it's calculated and it's an intellectual risk, and you're more than happy to take it, and your immutable signs there at the bottom are completely supporting you. You have you have that temperance energy of like having one foot in one world, the other foot in the other world. You have the Gemini energy of being mind and spirit. You have that Fool energy, walking and floating. So everything is supporting you on having these big opportunities flow in just next week, inshallah. better job, more fulfilling job, might have already gotten it, might be starting next week. It's something that you're getting paid to do what you want to, and it's nice and it's easy. Even if you're not getting it exactly right now, the best way to try to get it is to be nice and easy. Aggression will not work whatsoever in this climate that we are in any way. Anytime you are aggressive in any aspect of your life, even if you're just texting someone looking for information, even could be the most mundane thing. Anytime you're aggressive, it is bull's horns tipped in blood, and you don't even realize that you're stabbing people. No matter how nice you're being, no matter how sane your question may be or the interaction you wish to have, it's not going to go the way you think. Okay, so just keeping that in mind. Now, the more easy and the more nice you are when everyone else is being insane, the more you'll get done. Probably you'll get done everything you want to. Now, tying into this is leaning on your friends. You have friends who are very, very good friends. They are loyal to you. They love you. Many of them may even be family. And you need to lean on them a little bit. Okay? You need to lean on them a little bit. Just, how do I say it? It's easier to be told the truth than it is to have someone so taken with who you are that they can't like spit it out. One may feel better, but it's not better. It's much, much, much worse. Okay? Now, towards the very end of the month here, when we have this Temperance energy, the Lovers, the Fool, there is an interpersonal conversation that's really big that needs to be had. And you may actively be avoiding it, and I do not blame you. But at the end of May, it's a conversation that is had. And so perhaps the best way to prep for that is, well, make sure you're clean. Make sure you're looking good. Make sure everything is in order. Make sure, I would akin it to you don't know who's coming over to the house and you don't know what time, but you know they're coming. You get that? So you start to do all the things that you do to make sure that the person who comes into the house knows that it's clean and welcoming and safe and all of those things. Yeah. So you're doing that, but with your soul. Ooh, exciting. I'll see you in the extended right now. Love you.